Hello, Jim Stroud here, your SourceCon editor, here with another exciting episode of The Source. Today we have a very special guest. Special guest, tell us, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, my name is Jenna Aronow. I've been in recruiting, primarily tech recruiting, for the last 11 years, and I opened a consultancy to work with startups 7 years ago.
Nice, nice. Now, I know from our conversation off screen, we were talking a lot about the job market, the way it is right now, and how a lot of recruiters are having a tough time finding opportunities right now. Do you have any advice that you would like to share?
Yeah, I actually am really excited to talk about the same steps that I just took and landed a contract this morning. So
Oh, good.
hopefully, will be helpful for others too.
Great, great. Take it away.
Awesome. All right, got to share my screen. Hold for tech, please. Live in fear that the wrong window will pop up and you'll see my very messy desktop. Great. So this is a kind of approach that I came up to when I was
Hmm,
sitting and going through and applying to jobs on LinkedIn and being a recruiter, knowing that there were hundreds of applications coming in and it might not even get looked at. So trying to figure out how I could stand out and really meet a need that companies had, even in a time when the market is a little crazy.
hmm.
So the first thing that I came up with is we could just use our superpower. We use it to find other people jobs all the time. We find their skills and their expertise and the things they want to work on, and we match them up with companies that need those skills. So finally, my brain went, well, why not use that to find myself the perfect job? So a little bit of a different way to flip the script, but still very doable for recruiters. Even if you don't currently have like a LinkedIn recruiter seat or any of your tools available, still want to make this really accessible for folks. Basically, instead of finding the perfect candidate, you're finding the perfect role for yourself. The first thing that you want to do is kind of almost like an intake call with yourself, same as you do with a candidate. What's your niche? What are the things that you're really good at? One of those things for me was hardware recruiting. I find that a lot of people don't necessarily have that expertise. A lot of hardware and like Internet of Things companies that are still around, things like that, are really looking for that expertise.
Sure.
And so that's somewhere that I can stand out. And when I reach out to those companies, I can say, I've done this before. I've made this many hires for hardware engineers. You also really want to highlight your accomplishments. And this can be really hard for a lot of us. It's hard to say good things about yourself, right? So when you are writing one of those like bio pages or something and you're trying to figure out what are my standout accomplishments? To be able to talk to companies in a market like this, you really want to be confident in yourself and your ability to do the job. So I literally practiced saying mine out loud until I felt comfortable saying them, which sounds really funny, but it's like, cool. No, I've got these points. I know what I'm doing.
Now, I like that because I know a
And
lot of
then
people are shy about talking about themselves.
it's so scary. And so being able to like really emphasize I'm good at these things. And to get mine down, I actually had to tap a couple of recruiters that have worked closely with me
Okay.
and ask like, what are my strong points? What are the things that you enjoy about working with me? And they gave me some really great information. And because it was coming from people I trusted, I even felt more confident putting it out there as opposed to like, well, I think I'm really good at this. So always a good way to go. And then I never want to forget to throw in, what is your recruiting passion? A big one for me is sourcing. I love the search. I love digging and finding the right people. I love when they're not even on the market and I can give them a job that's better than the one that they have today. All of those pieces. So when I'm looking for a job, I want to look for something that's going to require some sourcing because that's a big deal for me. And I know I'm going to be excited to get up and do that work every morning. So I've got my niche, got my accomplishments and my little spiel already. And then I've got my recruiting passion. I know what it is that I want to be doing. From there, get your specs, just like any job rec that you're going to open. You want to know the industry that you're looking for. What is it that these people do? Maybe it's SaaS in the tech side, maybe it's medical, whatever it is that is the industry that you feel like you want to start with. And then you also want to look at company size and recruiting team size, because you're going to approach messaging a company that has 25 recruiters split across 5 different teams very differently than if you're writing a founder from a startup and it's the very first time they're working with a recruiter. So
Right.
you really want to make sure that you know the company that you're looking for and that they can tell that you've done your research. And then look at the type of roles that they currently have available. Are they roles that you're excited and uniquely qualified to hire for? So again, if I see hardware or if I see a bunch of infrastructure engineers, like those are things that I know I can do really well. And I have the data to really talk to, this is how many people I've hired in this space. This is why I think that I would be really great for your company. And I like to look at funding, because if someone just raised a round of funding, a lot of times one of the requirements that the VCs will give them is, we want you to grow your team by X. So we're excited to give you money. We want you to put some of that money into hiring new people, and we want you to do it fast. And that's where recruiters can really come in and make that difference. So there's two ways to reverse search, right? The first one is that you want to look for the kinds of roles that you want to fill. Like I was mentioning, if you're into infrastructure, if you're into hardware, if whatever is the role, find people that are hiring multiples of that role right now. So you're basically working yourself into a job that you're excited and passionate about. And that always goes really far to stand out from a crowd. So here's a couple of sites that I use. Again, these are kind of startup focused. That's sort of my niche, but you could use it in many other ways as well. Work at a startup is really great. It's the Y Combinator search. Well Found is what AngelList became, startup.jobs. And then there's this thing called Built In, and it lists all of the startups in a city. And they have Built in New York, Built in Seattle. I just put Built in SF on here because it's the one I'm most familiar with. But it will list all of the startups in your area, what they're known for, what their funding is, and what kind of people they're looking to hire. And like, that's all of the information you need all in one place.
It's two things stand out to me so far. I really like a lot of what I'm hearing. I know that a lot of people in their job search mode, they're not doing the research that you're doing. They're just looking at a job title and just hitting apply, apply, apply. And then I think they're getting frustrated because they're doing what they've always done and not doing something different. So I can just imagine someone listening to your presentation going, wow, that seems like a lot of work. Well, yeah, finding a job is work in itself. So I really appreciate the approach that you're going with this for sure. For sure. Just want to say that.
Yeah, thank you. And I think in the long run, you're actually going to save time
Mm,
because you have so many jobs that you apply to 100 jobs on LinkedIn. That takes you a certain amount of hours, even if there's an easy apply button. And you might hear back from 2 or 3 of those jobs. I actually talked to an engineer the other day who has documented out his entire job search. He's reached out to like 300 companies and he heard back from less than 10 of them, even with a form rejection. People are
wow.
just getting slammed right now. But
Sure.
if you can come in and do a little bit of research on each company and maybe 10 of these reach outs, might net you much better results than 100 LinkedIn reach outs.
Agreed. Agreed.
So the other way that you can do this is look for the kinds of companies that you want to work for. So these are all sites that are really great for talking about startups that just got funding. Like I mentioned, usually there's like a hiring component to that funding requirement. Crunchbase is great. They have crunchbase.com/discover, and it is a fully searchable database of everything that's in their profile. You can sort it by when they got their funding. You can sort it by amount, location. This is a paid service, but they give you a 7-day free trial. So do it for 6 days, put a reminder in your phone, cancel it before the 7th day. But in those 6 days, you can pull all of the information that you need to really have a comprehensive search. GrowthList and TechCrunch also have very similar products. I always like to list a couple in case somebody's like, I don't really like Crunchbase. I'm like, cool, we've got other options for you. So
Very
once you've
nice.
got all of that information, you really want to do even more research. And maybe at this point, people are going, oh my God, she's making me do so much research. But I find that it's great to be able to go in and say, congratulations on your new Series A funding. I took a look at your job site. I see you're looking for software engineers. I had a great time hiring those over at such and such a company that did a similar thing, a similar product. Maybe it's a SaaS product. I would love to talk about helping you to fill those new roles.
Okay. Yeah. I like you. I see the angle. I'm still liking this. Very good.
Good. So in the first research, and this sounds so simple, but I talk to candidates all the time who will go, well, what is it that you do? And I'm like, sir, we are on a call. You should probably know what, just a little overview. Like, is this a SaaS company in such and such a space? At least know that and know how to pronounce the name of the company. I've worked with some companies with some funky startup names, and I'm always impressed by the people that I can tell, like, took a minute to make sure that they're doing it right. What are their hiring needs? Again, you can find a lot of that by going onto their jobs page. You might even be able to find that by looking at the size of the team versus the size of the user base or things like that. But really, the jobs page is your first and easiest way to do that. You want to know a little bit about the company culture. Is this a company where you want to write a pretty informal kind of email? Hey, saw what you're doing, think this is really cool. Is this a company that's a little more buttoned up and you want to present a little bit more formal email? So I always like to match to the style. And I also want to call out a couple of things from if they have like a company culture page that they took time to put together. Hey, I saw that I worked for a company for a while that asked, what's your favorite dinosaur when you started? And they had it, I don't know. I have cats on my shirt. I don't judge anybody. So, what's your favorite dinosaur? And they had it on their culture page. And so we would occasionally get a candidate that would come in and say, hey, and this is my favorite dinosaur. So it was just a little standout. Maybe you could make it your subject line when you reach out to them. It's going to make your message not be one more in the pile. Do they currently have a talent team? Some places might have a full team in place. Some places might be a couple of people set up in a garage and they have to hire people for the first time. And it just depends on what you're looking for. Again, you already did your introspection and figured out what kind of role you're looking for. But knowing if they have a team in place is going to tell you who you need to contact to send out these messages. And then finally, where do your skills fit in? Again, I've hired this before. I've done really well. Here's my track record. Here's what I think would be really interesting for you. And I always want to make it easy for them to say yes. So I want to give them all of the information. If they're wondering, who is this girl? Did she look at our website? What's going on? They already know all of those answers before they even have to respond to me in any way. And then good old talent mapping. So we've all done it as probably a junior recruiter, where you sit and you go through a company and you figure out their structure. Works really well for when you're looking for a job too. First of all, what does the company structure look like? And then any existing talent resources that they have. So you want to get the names of those teams so that you know who you want to reach out to. Really easy to do, LinkedIn search by company and title. I would put, the company that I'm interested in and recruiter or head of talent, or even HR can be a really good way to go. You can also look at who's posted the currently open roles. When you post a role on LinkedIn, they'll give you the opportunity to attach yourself to the role. And it'll say, such and such posted this role. Cool. Then that's the person that I want to reach out to if I want to help filling that role. And then the now hiring purple banner is actually really good too. If you can find the hiring managers that say, I'm hiring for this for my team within that organization. And that's super easy to do because you can just pull up the whole company list and then scroll down and see who's got a purple banner.
Nice.
So from there, work your connections. See who you know at those companies, first degree or even second degree. Do you know somebody on the recruiting team? Does another recruiter know somebody on the recruiting team? Have you worked with the founders before? Do you have a connection through one of the venture capital firms? If you've worked in a portfolio and it's gone really well, might be time to introduce yourself and say, hey, I hired for such and such, absolutely loved it, looking for my next role, would love to repeat that success for you. That kind of a thing. Or even previous hiring managers. I've had really good luck if I had a connection with a hiring manager and made some great hires for their team. Hey, I would love to work with you again. Are you looking for anybody to add on to the team? And it's a little bit, it's a little bit bold and it feels a little awkward at first, but we're in a market where you got to be bold and maybe a little bit awkward right now.
Yes, indeed.
So here's your sources. Talent function, I would start with head of talent, making the hiring decisions, person you want to get in touch with. If not, recruiting manager for the team. Maybe the technical recruiting manager, if you're looking for business and sales, the manager on that side. You really want to get to the person who can say yes for you. Senior recruiter, and if all else fails, human resources or the people department is a really good way to go. Maybe it's a very small company. They don't have any of that team in place yet. I would hit up founders, CEOs, and COOs because they're usually, I find, recruiting organizations within smaller companies tend to either go under the CEO or they go under the COO because they've got that operating piece. So
Sure.
let's figure out who are the people that I need to get in touch with and then find the ways to get in touch with them. Use your tools. If you still have them, great. If not, lots of these tools offer free trials and you can use your personal email address so that you're not using like a work one that you've already used up the free trial on. I really like Gem as a scraper, but it is an expensive tool and they are not super big on trials. But Seek Out, Contact Out, and Lemlist all do have free trials. I checked yesterday. So you can go in, get all of those emails. I would stick to company emails for these folks as opposed to like personal emails, which is usually our default, but a way that you can get in touch that's not just the inbox on LinkedIn. And then I would send a sequence message. People are busy. Their inboxes are getting slammed more than ever. I would do a 3-piece sequence over about a week and a half or 2 weeks. Again, Gem, Mailmeter, and Streak all do this service for you. And if you get a reply, they'll auto stop the sequence. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, they got back to me, but I'm still sending these other messages. It'll take care of all that for you automatically. So basically, the now what? You've got the people, you've got the information, you've got their contact list, you've done all your research. How are you going to get in touch with them? You really want to personalize your outreach. And I can't stress this enough. Like I said, pull in something from the company culture page, pull in any information that you have about the organization to be able to say, I really put time in because I'm excited about you, not I really need a job. Please, someone give me one, even though we might all be feeling that way right now.
Right. Right.
Highlight your research. And then, like I said, really emphasize why you're uniquely qualified. You are a recruiter, you have this many years of experience doing exactly this kind of work. Here's the companies you've done it with. If you have data on like your hire rates or if you doubled the size of a team, those kinds of things can really stand out on there as well. And then I always give a call to action at the end. So, hey, would love to grab some time with you. Here's my Calendly. Grab anything that works for you. And I think that that works very well as opposed to some of the, do you have time on Monday at 3:00? Because they might not get that message until Tuesday. And then they're like, oh, well, I don't have time on Monday. Chuck it out. But if you have the Calendly link, they can right in that moment decide that they want to talk with you and move on to those next steps.
Very nice.
So that's my spiel. I apologize. I did a lot of talking.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I find it inspired. I think a lot of job seekers get trapped in doing, what they've always done, and then they get frustrated. So having new approaches is really, really to the advantage of the job seeker. One other thing that I would maybe honestly add to your strategy, but something to keep in mind, is when you're looking at these different companies, maybe pick at different companies that have a lot of competitors. Because if
That's a good
I
point.
work for Verizon, just for me working Verizon, AT&T and T and Sprint and all the other, well, AT&T and other telecom companies will have an interest in me. So there may be something else that people may want to consider as well. Big companies with a lot of competitors because they'll want to recruit your way.
I love that. Or if you've got a new up and coming company that's trying to beat one of
Oh
those
yeah.
big competitors, they're going to want the people that have already hired for that group.
Yes, yes, for sure, for sure. Someone wrote an article recently on the SourceCon blog, I think, or pending, about how to recruit from award-winning companies. Because if companies are winning awards, then they have award-winning employees. So that's another consideration as well. Companies that win awards. Very good. I'm so impressed by this strategy. It's one of those things where once you hear, you're like, oh yeah, it's common sense, but I think a lot of people, again, are just sort of stuck in the mentality of apply, 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 and wait and wait and wait kind of thing.
And it's hard. Like it can get discouraging so fast. At least it's another tool to have in your belt so you can feel like you're trying something a little different.
Yes. And not only are you a customer, you're the president, so to speak, because you tried this strategy and you landed a job. So that gives it even more credibility
Yeah,
for
definitely.
sure. If someone has questions or additional questions that they may want to ask you about this, how can they find you online?
Yeah, so I'm really easy to find on LinkedIn because I have a unique last name now. I used to be Williams, and then I moved to Aronow, and people can find me, which is great. So Jenna Aronow on LinkedIn. I answer all my in-mails. First name at aronow.io for my email address. And any other way that people want to get in touch, I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any success stories, hopefully.
Hopefully, I'm sure there'll be many coming after hearing about this strategy. Thank you so much for being on The Source. You are appreciated.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
One, two, three, jump! Get wild.